going to see a panel discussion conducted by the journalist and sports moderator Jessica Kastrop. You might know her from, if you watch sometimes German Bundesliga, for example, or DFB-Pokal or Champions League at Sky. She's the super soccer savvy woman that conducts all the interviews there. And so she will do here. Please give it up for Jessica.
Good afternoon. Hello. My name is Jessica Kastrop, as Ole mentioned, and I'm a sportscaster for Sky Germany that occasionally gets hit by a stray ball in the head. Yeah. Yeah, it was painful, actually. Yes, it was. Why am I showing you this? As you can see, this clip's about 5 years old. And, well, we had 20 million clicks on YouTube. Overall, 35 million people who saw it. I went to New York. I was in the CBS morning show just because of this scene. Yes. But why am I telling you this is that at the end, we had no digital strategy. It just happened. And the thing is that probably I could have made tons of money with it. But we had no idea about the digital opportunities. And it was just some years ago. And probably the guy that is coming up on stage could have helped me a lot, because his company is one of the leading digital consultancy agencies in the world of sports. He started to work with a poor and small football club called Manchester City. Probably you know it. Now his client list includes the Premier League itself, the UEFA, Valencia FC, and also Juventus, the runner-up of the last year's Champions League final. So I think we should talk. Please meet Richard Ayers, CEO and founder of SevenLeague from London. Please, Richard. Richard.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah, we have to speak about this clip later. But first of all, you started as a journalist with the BBC. So when did you find out that you belong to this digital world?
Pretty early on, because I was a kid who was playing a lot of games, both on the pitch and at home on my Commodore 64 when I was a teenager. But I was a good journalist, but I was much better at building websites, it turned out. A lot of night shifts on a radio program, and then I just started coding.
So thank you very much.
Okay.
Nice to have you here. And our next guest could a lot of ideas from Richard come true. His company has created over 200 apps, and his creations were presented by Steve Jobs at Apple's first App Store demonstration. Please welcome from Vancouver, Canada, ArcTouch's Vice President Client Engagement, Scott Michaels.
Hi.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, everybody.
So can you tell us, why are you so into sports and sports apps?
Sure. So grew up around it. My father was the platform diving coach for the Olympics for Canada. So we traveled with the team. I've kind of always been around sport and was just extremely fortunate that my life led me to working with Apple and working in sports and being able to do products for like doing ESPN and for the NHL and NBA and getting to work with the teams directly. It's been fantastic.
And we will talk about that. Thank you very much. So there are still 2 empty chairs there. Please welcome, first of all, the head of international affairs of the FIFA Early Warning System, Jacek Wojdyla. Hi. Hi, Jacek.
How are you?
FIFA's Early Warning System is a subsidiary company of FIFA. It was founded in 2006 in the light of, let's say, various betting scandals with the goal to protect the integrity of sport.
That's right.
Okay.
That's correct.
In these days, Jacek, let's be honest, sometimes sounds a little bit ironic, doesn't it?
Yeah, okay, there is a lot of turbulence going on about FIFA, so yeah, that's right, but we shouldn't focus, or we should focus today on this, on the more technical side and how we use data and systems to detect it, and not going on another level with this. Yeah.
You know, it's good now we spoke about the white elephant in the room and everything is fine. Now we can concentrate on your job. Thank you very much. There's your chair. The great thing about sport is that you can hear unbelievable success stories every time, every weekend, for example. But this story of this young guy is far beyond unbelievable. He was born in the San Francisco Bay Area and raised in Arizona. And his mother is from Mexico. So which kind of sport would you choose probably? Football maybe? Basketball, if you're as tall as him? But no, Auston Matthews chose hockey. And he is the #1 prospect for the NHL draft in June. So meet the biggest talent in world hockey. From the Zurich Lions, Auston Matthews.
Yeah.
Auston, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Auston, if you were 2 days older, you know, you would probably play NHL right now. So, but these 2 days, you didn't get drafted, so there was 1 year gap, and you choose to go to Zurich, to Switzerland. Are there some fans from the Lions here? Good, great. Okay, great. So why did you choose Switzerland? Why did you choose the Lions?
Well, Zurich, and first and foremost, is a great organization, and I thought for me it was a great opportunity to come over here and play in a great league. Great coach and great organization, and so far I really enjoyed my time here.
Thank you. Please take your seat and we will speak about your incredible career. But first of all, Jacek, I would like to go into the topic. It's called match fixing. We just had problems with that in Germany. So how does FIFA Early Warning Systems work?
Well, first let me say that's great to be here, and it's fascinating setup today. So happy to give you today some insights about early warning system and how we use data-driven system to fulfill the mandate for FIFA. So I think at the beginning it makes sense to give you a little bit of context to set the scene. So what's the actual problem? I guess many of you have read about the big headlines about match fixing in tennis in the recent days. So it's a hot topic, not only in football but also in tennis. It's a real problem in sports, and it's often underestimated, the issue, but it's existing, and so we have to take it very seriously about the problem. On the other side, just referring back to this media news, I call it media noise, because there is a lot of speculation about this incident. Actually, this media news are based on betting data analysis, but there's actually no evidence. These are not hard facts, so we have to be very careful, especially talking on behalf of sports, how to treat this information and to protect the players, protect the sports from this kind of media noise. Anyway, about early warning systems, so the actual problem which we have here, it's match fixing, so the manipulation of football games for betting purposes. In football specifically, I'm talking here about organized crime, which is infiltrating the sport, approaching the players, the referees, the coaches, but also club owners to make a fix on the ground, on the pitch, to orchestrate the fix on the ground. So the people want to make profits on the betting markets with fixing matches, and I'm talking here about huge profits. Just a side note, the betting market is an emerging market, very dynamic. It's fast moving, a lot of technical developments with internet betting, mobile betting, live betting. So today you can bet on everything live, so during the game is taking place. So the market is actually generating, and this is a conservative number, about $1 trillion per year. Sports betting per year, $1 trillion. So this is a crazy number. And here you see the dimensions when you compare it with the tobacco industry, which is generating about 300 billion US dollars. So just to see the relations. This is the problem, and we have to focus on that. And this is how we use it. Actually, the thing is what I wanted to say about match fixing, that we have with FIFA organization and a governing body and other governing bodies which are actually taking this very seriously. They know about these issues. They have taken various measures. One of these measures is the early warning system, which is the company name, and as well the technical system. So what we are doing is monitoring the international betting markets to find indicators on potential match fixing. So we are using or collecting and analyzing betting data, betting information, and then trying to find irregularities, unusual betting patterns. Technically speaking, we are actually analyzing odds movements during the games or before the game. So what we need to fulfill that, it's two things. It's betting data, betting information. I'm talking here about millions of data sets which needs to be processed and analyzed. And this is for pre-game and live betting. And secondly, what we need, and this is the right solutions, the right technical solutions, the right hardware. So we are using data warehouse engineering systems, and we have with Oracle a long-term partner which is supporting us in this journey. So this is in essence where is the problem and what we are actually doing with FIFA Early Warning System.
But how does the monitoring work? I mean, is it kind of efficient, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, well, it's a technical work, obviously. You have to understand the bookmaking business. So the bookmaker actually is making match predictions. He is looking for probabilities if a team A will win or a team B, or if there is a correct score or how many goals will be scored. So he is predicting the games, and this is reflected in odds. Actually, odds are moving, and the bookmaker is adjusting the odds based on two factors. One is very obvious one. Before the game starts, there are injuries or substitutions, so this is affecting the odds. During the game, during the live betting, you have obvious reasons like goals scored, red cards, also injuries, which are having an impact on the odds movement. These two, and the second factor is, of course, the money flow, and this is key for our work. So the gamblers are betting on an outcome of a game, and they're putting money into the bets. So this is generating a betting pattern, a normal betting pattern. Match fixers, organized crime, which have a knowledge about the outcome of the game, they will bet differently. So this is, they are probably, or most likely, they bet more money on a specific outcome because they have to make maximum profits. And they are probably also betting on an unpredicted or unexpected, I have to call it unexpected outcome of the game, because the odd is more attractive for the unexpected. So this is creating another betting pattern, an unusual one, and that's what we are looking for, to find out the deviation between the normal and the unusual betting pattern.
But is there a special software, is there a special algorithm, or how do you find out?
Yes, we are using already now alerts, algorithms, to be able to find in a more efficient way the deviations between the normal and the unusual betting patterns. So this is one way how we do that. So, I mean, there are millions of data sets or thousands of data sets for one game, so you need the right systems in place to be able to process this, but also the algorithms which are then automatically identifying these deviations. So this is the one side what we do. In addition to that, we are also using basic sports information to detect match fixing. So actually finding out what is happening on the pitch. So we are using video analysis, looking at the usual suspects, which are mainly the goalkeeper, the defender, or the referee, how they are behaving during the game. So are there any game-changing actions which are suspicious and could raise a concern about the integrity of the game? And then it's the goal of us to bring in correlation both analysis, the betting data analysis, looking where there is a suspicious bet, and checking also on the ground actually what's going on, if there is anything obvious. So this is the current approach, but we are heading into a much more sophisticated approach by using, by improving our systems and our monitoring approach from an analytical and also from a technical perspective.
But the topic is up to the minute. If you see, for example, the scandal now in tennis. So Richard, you worked as a news journalist. Is it like these early warning systems not only existing from FIFA but also from other organizations? Do you think it's effective enough, or is it just the top of the iceberg?
Frankly, I have no detailed insight, really. A number of the sports federations that we work with take this kind of stuff extremely seriously, because they know that fundamentally the success of the sport, both in terms of the sports business, but also in terms of participation, relies upon buy-in. It relies upon the belief in it. So we've been working with UEFA across a whole number of football associations in Europe, ranging from Georgia and Armenia to Finland to Germany to all different shapes and sizes. And in some of those countries, the troubles that there have been at FIFA has had a real impact on the kids wanting to get into a sport, on parents encouraging the kids into the sport. So you get this sort of belief. And I started SevenLeague because I felt that sports and digital generally are in two totally separate camps. Because these guys were on the pitch when they were kids, and these guys were in the bedrooms coding or playing games, and they're quite different people. And the people running the sports, that's certainly true. But actually, when sport works well, it inspires humanity and it changes society so significantly, right?
Yeah, look at Auston, for example.
Absolutely. I'm inspired. Well, I don't know you well enough yet. But and that difference is incredibly powerful. And if the digital things, whether it be the monitoring of the betting or even basic stuff like websites and social media, all the way through, you can encourage the sport, which will have a positive impact on the rest of society. That's my theory.
And what's the future then, Jacek, to protect the integrity of sports? The future, how to protect the integrity of sports?
Yeah, I mean, actually, the biggest challenge we are facing, and it's the nature of match fixing and of the problem, is it's very hard, or it's a big challenge to detect irregularities or unusual matches, and then it's even more difficult to find evidence to prove it. So it lies in the nature of match fixing. So that's the reason why we have to work very hard in the future to improve our systems and kind of how we monitor betting markets and football matches. So to be able to also have implied a very scientific approach in the future. So we have launched two initiatives, two major projects to be able to identify this in a more efficient way and to be able to build a very strong case around an incident, so the investigation procedures and the disciplinary committees can take this information and use it in an effective way. So the major projects are, one is that we want to make our own prediction of matches. It's about calculating odds. It's about defining the expected betting patterns. Is a kind of artificial odds. So how it should evolve the game. So this is the prediction. And then, and this is the key word, about using statistical modeling, predictive modeling, so very scientific approach. And this data exists, so we have historical data, we have live data, so we have just to process and use and define the right models. So this is one part, to be more sophisticated on this side. And the second part, and this is a fascinating area, it's about sports data. It's actually, I call it big data in sports. Specifically, it's about players' performance data. So most of you have already seen in a Champions League match or in a World Cup match, like statistics about a player, how many miles he was running. So this is just a base, so this is just an example. In the background, there are millions of data sets about the whole match, about how the players were moving, how they were performing, where they were positioned, etc. Actually, it's a topic for another discussion, how this data is captured. It's very fascinating. Just to give you an example, and we are working now with a company, with one of the biggest media agencies and data suppliers. So there are different methodologies to capture this information. One is in the stadiums there are cameras, for example, 8 cameras which are digitalizing the whole pitch, taking every information from every player, every move, where he was positioned, and this data, this raw data is existing. So you can imagine for our purposes, this can be very interesting also here to apply predictive modelings, how actually a player, how a team should behave during the game, and then on the actual game, finding out the deviations.
Yes,
so
please, we have to shorten it a little bit because I have to ask some questions to Auston as well.
Sorry.
And you know, we have so many people here on the panel. I'm sorry, but the time is running.
Yeah. Okay, so this, just to summarize, we want to find finally the correlation between betting data and the sports data. And this is the goal going forward, to be more sophisticated.
Great. Now, we were talking about, you know, this is sometimes the dark spot of sports, like Matt fixing, so let's see on the bright side of sports, like Auston, so you can see what you can achieve with hard work. First of all, my impression was, okay, if you're born, if you're raised in Arizona, you know, in the heat of Arizona, your mother is from Mexico, so why hockey?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, but you know, I think.
I'm sorry, it's, you know.
Yeah, just you know, my uncle actually you know, kind of took me to Coyotes games, the NHL team in Arizona. So that's when I first kind of watched hockey when I was 2 or 3 years old, and you know, I always wanted to start skating, and you know, my parents kind of you know, put me in some lessons, and I kind of just fell in love with it from there.
And I think you made a great career so far, but it's going to be even bigger. I told the audience before, you know, if you were born 2 days earlier, probably you would play NHL right now. So is it also a blessing that you can make this experience abroad right now? Because I think no #1 prospect has made a year in Europe before.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a blessing for me to come over here, and you know, besides the hockey, it's nice to experience a different part of the world and live in a beautiful country. So it's definitely a blessing in my opinion.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Do you see a different reaction online and like around your on the website or on the it's the Lions, isn't it? Zurich Lions, or on the Lions website or on your social media? Do you see a different reaction here than? Because I think there'll be a different reaction when you get to the NHL, right? It's going to be a very different world.
Yeah, I mean, media-wise, it's a little bit different. You know, a lot of times I don't really understand what they're saying, anyways, just because of the language barrier. But yeah, I think you know, for sure it's you know, different opinions, but you know, in the end, you know, I'm really happy with my decision coming here.
You don't get any, you know, online stalking or kind of slightly weird reactions on social?
Not yet. Not yet. Wait till he plays for the NHL.
Not too much right now.
In the NHL.
Yeah.
But you've chosen Switzerland. If you compare, on which level does the Swiss league play?
Well, it's definitely above the level, any level I've played at before, which was, you know, major junior and college teams as well. So, you know, from everybody I talked to before I came here, this is, you know, an extremely high level, just below the NHL. So, you know, as far as I can say, it's been an unbelievable experience, and you know, the level of play has been extremely high.
So you had, wait, let me read that. 8 goals, 13 points, and a 28 shooting percentage in the past 7 games. For every hockey fan, this is like, wow, you know? If you could choose a club now in the NHL for next year, for next season, which would be your favorite one?
Any team, really. Just, you know, it'd be a privilege just to be drafted and play for any team in the NHL, so I can't really give you one.
That's very modest, but you know, from the heart, I mean.
Yeah. No, I can't say anybody.
Good media training. Well done. Good training. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. We are here, you know, in the digital world. So how are you using, I mean, you are 18 years old. How do you use Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp? I don't know. I mean, you own a smartphone, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, what I heard a new term. It's generation looking down, and that's what's it called. So, now how do you use it?
You know, to be honest, I'm not really a big, you know, guy who posts a lot of, you know, tweets or pictures on Instagram. Usually, I just use it to check, you know, scores or, you know, just look at the news and what's kind of going on in the world.
But I was stalking you on Instagram, of course, you know, was kind of preparation for this day. And I saw, you know, there were some also private pictures with your mom, for example, with friends, I don't know, with a girlfriend or with, I don't know, but yeah.
When I was asking about stalkers,
Yeah.
I didn't think
It's gonna happen.
Sorry. And I was wondering, you know, if you would be able to do that also, you know, when you're playing then in the NHL. I mean, Richard, you were a consultant on that field. What do you think?
the NHL will lock that down.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was in football at Man City, the only talk that had been given to the players, including Tevez and company and all these high profile, they had had one talk by a bunch of lawyers, and it was Schillings, the international libel lawyers, just basically give them a list of stuff not to do. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, all the way through. Now, the NHL's not that bad, and they will start you thinking about, okay, this is my personal brand, and how am I getting sponsorship, and how does that interact? But they absolutely will want to control it. I mean, partly for your own protection, but also partly for the good of the game and all that kind of stuff. You've had some experience in that, haven't you?
Yeah, it's the same thing, is controlling that channel, and part of it is for your own benefit, because I think a lot of players come in and they're not aware of the intensity of some fans, and especially playing in the US, where there's just a lot more, they put it like radical outliers in each group that can cause problems.
Yeah.
So, do you think in the future, you know, that it's going to be normal that every NHL star, for example, or that Auston has his own app?
I think so.
Yeah, entirely, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what we've seen as a trend, because the league doesn't essentially control that part of their lives. And so as the younger players come up, and as essentially because the teams can't see the revenue in it yet, and those that do are starting to reap a good reward from it. So it's just players that are younger are just generally more savvy with this stuff often than the league is themselves, and so they can see the opportunity.
You also get, if you're a sponsor and you want to get to your audience, you know, for your washing brand or sports kit or whatever it is, the best way to do that is not actually to sponsor a team or a league. The best way to do that is sponsor a player, because they'll have an individual, you know, reach which is usually much bigger than the teams. And then you go and use programmatic advertising, you know, use the digital technology, and then that's the way you get to the audience. You just cut out all the middleman. So therefore, the athlete, it becomes significantly more powerful. I mean, it's also higher risk because you've got to manage your own brand, and you can't see, you know, there's a lot more control and constraints, but there's opportunities.
I find a lot of those brands are happy with that, because you look like in the NBA where some of those players do that, but then they get traded. And so the relationship with the brand doesn't end, because they can just take that to the next team. And so there's some stability to that for the brand that's quite appealing.
Yeah, and most of the Premier League player contracts now have digital image rights are part of what you sell when you sign up, and it's managed under the image rights. Quite often now they'll have, certainly the more advanced ones, they will have then a separate company that deals specifically and only with the player's image rights online. So it's just breaking it out. It's becoming atomized.
What is the biggest mistake he should avoid, speaking about social media and digital strategy? Just, you know, we want to do something for you here.
I would say that the simplest lesson is just take a breath. That's it, right? Because as the tendency with social is you can react so quickly, and you just need to kind of pause, pull back, wait, and do what. Now, whether you do it yourself or an agency does it or your club does it or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but just you don't have that instantaneous reaction.
Actually, you shouldn't talk about match fixing in social media, and this is a very important.
Yeah, number one, don't talk about
don't
match
talk
fixing.
about match fixing, because you know in our work we are also using social media data, so unstructured data in the investigation. So we are also exploring for looking if there is, you know, if players are, you know, putting on social media any tags, etc., which could be connected to certain statements, etc., and flagging this kind of statements and incidents. So everything is collected. It's intelligence gathering, and it's also covering the social media. Of course, in his case, he is managed, and he has advice, and he is much more exposed. But in case of players on lower leagues, second-tier leagues, players do it by themselves. So they are exposed with this kind of statements. And for us, it's of course very important to get this data.
But what about the real value of social media? What's the real deal?
I can speak a bit to that, maybe like on, because a lot of I think the biggest mistake we see today in digital and sport in general with all the teams that we've dealt with and players is the authenticity of the voice goes away, because I think it's so easy for everyone, like you said, to get this information anywhere now. And the teams don't value it as much, so they don't produce a product which is as good, and they're gonna lose the audience, which means the revenue go down, and it all is because it wasn't an authentic voice that came from the player or something beyond just a score from the team. They want to hear the heart of the team, and I think a lot of the groups today don't do that. They're not there yet.
Fundamentally, the opportunities are the same as the rest of digital media. You can either reach more audience, you can either engage that audience further, or you can drive revenue out of the audience, right? It's very straightforward. Reach, engage, monetize, or reach, retention, revenue. It's those three all the time. It's just a question, and the same is true for all of your businesses as well. It's basically, what do we want to get out of this? We need to reach a wider audience, go international or something, engage them, or just straightforwardly monetize, and you just take your pick where you want to focus your goal.
But you said that, you know, digital and sports, they didn't really fit together. How would you describe the development in the last 5 years? Did they come together a little bit? A little bit more?
A little bit more. There has definitely been some progression towards it, partly because in the last year or so, I would say, we have seen more and more commercial directors wanting to work with us. And that's a significant shift, because it always used to be the marketing guys, right? The marketing guys, because they love a shiny new toy and the sexy thing they heard about or they read in Wired magazine and they want to do it, right?
The thing called internet?
Yeah, they're like, oh, wow, that's cool. We should do that. That's cool. And then they do it and they invest in it. And then it moved to the communications guys who began to sort of realize that actually they could use this as a mechanism to drive opinion and to manage the media and to do all that sort of thing. And now it's shifting towards the commercial guys. So a lot of the teams, a lot of the bigger teams across a whole range of sports have learned. A lot of the leagues have learned. So the examples of Major League Baseball, for example, also NHL, you know, they've got much better. But you still have a middle ground of old-fashioned sports organizations who just don't want to invest yet. The ones I find really exciting are the small little sports, like surfing or any of the extreme sports, where they don't necessarily have television rights deals, but they need to get to a big audience, and so they do little innovative things, streaming here, a bit of Periscope there, a bit of something that means that they can connect much more with audiences than they used to. That's where you're democratizing, using the technology to democratize the media capability, which is really powerful.
They can just work so much faster.
Yeah.
It's just the speed of it. Like, I think with a lot of the panelists here, it's been great to talk to everybody at this conference so far and talk about, like, well, the difference between what we see, you know, down in Silicon Valley with sport product and what we see over here is just straight up the speed of it, like teams not knowing what to do with Periscope and then in fact just completely missing it, and it's over and done with before they've started, and then they do it and actually it seems quite lame then. It's now you're too late. Now it's actually become a detraction to not be on top of it.
It's the fundamental business. If there's one thing to apply to any sports business or any business, it's the ability to adapt. It's got to be led from the top so the organization feels comfortable enough to move quickly. Because if you try and do the internet stuff and you move slowly, very difficult.
But I think that a lot of clubs, they haven't reached, you know, they look at Bayern Munich, for example. Bayern Munich is probably one of the best clubs in Europe right now. And what did they offer to their fans? Their last match at home before Christmas? Like every year, a laser show. And it was a laser show like we did in 87. It was a nice laser show, and they did it with Skyfall from Coldplay. I like this song. I've heard about it 1 million times since the World Cup. But anyhow, so, sorry, couldn't we do better?
You can. Yeah, you absolutely can. And I think that a lot of the exciting ideas that happen down in the States and Canada don't happen in Europe because of a little bit of conservatism around what the idea is and the speed at which to put that together with the sponsor and get all that together and get it cleared by legal and get the rights for the content cleared, and by then they've missed it. And so they're like, oh, well, let's do the laser show because we know how to do that and that's easy.
But tell us something about your innovations. I mean, you created over 200 apps, so what's the future? Where are we going?
I think a lot of it has to do with around with the VR, putting the people right in the game. There's examples now of taking some of the cameras out into the huddle in the NFL games. So you're in the huddle And this means cameras on the field. Like, this is where someone like in the NFL, this is where they're at today. And like you don't see that over here yet in some of the leagues where they're like, yeah, let's put, I mean, the cameras behind the goalies have gotten amazing in the last year. But now, what if I had the gear on and I was in there with the goalie? It's a different thing. And that's where it's going. And I think that you have to ride and be with that and be out in front of that, or you miss it.
I think I'm really interested in the VR and AR stuff. I think that's really interesting. It's difficult in field sports where the ball is going such a long distance and at such a speed. But as you say, you just want to be close to the action. I think the athletes and their digital power is going to become, that's a huge trend that's very, very powerful. There's a lot of opportunity to connect with the audience and do that. And also, I'm slightly obsessed by sports data. And forgive me for this word, but I came up with datatainment, which is horrible. But the general gist of not just doing infographics, but taking sports data and really creating an entertaining experience out of it. And that hasn't emerged yet, but I think that's coming as well.
Yeah, and not everything works. And I think that's about this, what we talk about experimenting a lot today. We put an Apple Watch on a goalie because we were like, oh, we can tell all the fans, they could feel the heartbeat and the excitement when he gets rushed. And the data was terrible because he was completely calm because he's a professional. It made no difference. And so like that, we learned, like, it sounds really great, looks on paper, you try it, it fails, fine, move on, find something else.
Can we put a camera in your helmet?
Yeah.
I mean, would it be weird if we like totally wired you up so we could tell, you know, like everything, heart rate and your eye tracking? I mean, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, that would be pretty impressive. You know, I actually tried one of those things in California last summer, and you know, it measured not only your heart rate, but you know, the amount of strides you take, pretty much how hard you're working, and it was pretty cool to kind of see all that.
Do you use that in training? You do the whole like, you know, personal, you know, quantified self stuff where you're getting every last detail about?
No, it was really just a one-time thing. You know, we don't really use that stuff, you know, throughout the season or anything.
But you can imagine a company like Under Armour that's
Huge right now.
just jumping in and like really hurting Nike and some of these other ones.
It's just, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm jawboned up, but yeah.
Yeah, and they sponsor a player, and like they'll be the ones who push the money and give the league and put enough attention around it to get it out onto the field, and then they'll start broadcasting it.
So now we spoke about, you know, the latest technologies when it comes to apps. So what, you know, when you think about digital strategies, is there a club where you could say, well, they're a role model for that?
Obviously, the Zurich Lions are amazing. Kind of get that in. In football, weirdly, even though I haven't been involved with them for 2 or 3 years, Man City are still doing a lot of the leading stuff. Real Madrid are getting in gear. Juventus are developing nicely. So
because now you're working with Juventus.
Oh yeah,
now,
that's right.
You know.
That's why they're getting in gear.
Now they're getting there.
It's interesting watching other sports do things. So I'm trying to think of some of the French rugby teams are beginning to do really nice behind the scenes because they get better access and they can do things in the locker room. You know, that's changing.
Which is your favorite club?
Football club? I wasn't born with that gene. I'm missing that bit of tribalism, so I don't really give a shit. I mean, I don't particularly have a team.
Okay, great to know that. So probably it's a good way to start working with them.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're a fan, it's too heartbreaking.
I'm not biased. Yeah. Borussia Dortmund, right? They're good.
They're
Borussia
good.
Dortmund,
Yes.
yeah. Their engagement stuff is amazing.
I'm going to be there on Saturday.
Okay.
So, Auston, what's your goal for the season?
Yeah, championship.
Of course.
That's all.
So, thank you very much. You know, a room full of champions and Auston Matthews. Great to have you here. Thank you so much. And yeah, good luck for your career. I think it's going to be great. And I'm looking forward which club you will be choosing in summer then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Auston.
Yeah.
Jacek, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very
Scott was great. And of course, Richard, thank you very much. And I think Ole is waiting for us. Time's over. Thank you very much.